So I'll just give you a little bit of background information about me, kind of like my backstory. So I am 39 years old, very soon to be 40, and I was born in 1982, back in the day when there weren't any ultrasound scans performed on pregnant women. So when my mum was pregnant with me, she wasn't scanned. So when I was born, the clinicians had kind of no idea why my leg and my hand hadn't grown in the way that they were supposed to. I'll show you some pictures. I'll share some pictures later on, and hopefully an account of kind of what my mum can remember about what she was told when I was born. But basically, I wear a prosthetic limb on my lower right leg because I don't have a full limb there. So I have kind of, I have a bit of a leg and I have some toes on that foot, but the length of it is far shorter than the other side, and the bone structure and muscle structure didn't form properly. So my natural leg, I wear inside a prosthetic limb, which I got my first one of those when I was around 9 months, so just before I started walking. So obviously a lot of the phrases that I used to hear when I was younger were, oh, so you don't know any different then? Yes, that is 100% true. I don't know any different. I've never had what I would call a normal two legs. So I've just kind of, got on with it in life. I imagine that if you are here because you know me, that there might be quite a few surprised people out there to learn about my leg, possibly, because it's not ever something that I've shied away from talking about. If people ask me questions or, are inquisitive, then I will always talk about it, but it's not necessarily something that I kind of put out there. So this is kind of a big deal for me, actually, because I have gone from, not really telling a huge amount of people about my leg that I've had for almost 40 years to literally kind of putting it completely out there on the internet for everyone to see and hear about, which is a bit crazy. But like I said, obviously, I'm hoping that this will be a good thing for me and, for anyone else in the same position. So yeah, anyway, back to me. So this is my left hand. When I was born, these two fingers were joined together. So I have a normal thumb, and then these two fingers were literally joined together when I was first born. So I had about 3 major operations within the first few months of my life, which were to separate those into 2 fingers to give me a bit more functionality with my left hand. So by the time I was a few months old, I'd already had 3 fairly major operations. So by the time the discussions came around to whether or not there was anything that needed to happen with my leg, obviously I'd had already been through quite a lot of surgery by then. So they did a lot of tests on me and my mum and my dad when I was born to try and work out what was the cause of it. So they did a lot of genetic testing, which never established anything kind of out of the ordinary. There's basically no, there was kind of no feasible reason of why it happened. But I think having gone through pregnancy 3 times myself now, it always amazes me, and I don't know whether this is just the scientist in me or what, but considering what you considering all the things that could go wrong when you're growing a baby, I'm surprised that things don't go wrong more often. And as much as it was probably quite an annoyance to my parents to not have somebody be able to give us a definitive reason of why it happened, I guess it probably was just one of those things, which is kind of what they put it down to. It just, the things that were supposed to happen didn't quite happen properly. So yeah, that's kind of their only explanation. I've got a younger brother who is 16 months younger than me, Chris. And when my mum was pregnant with him, she had a lot of scans, even though they still weren't kind of being done as routine. But obviously, because of what had happened to me, they wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that I thought was happening again, which it didn't. So my mum had a couple of scans when she was pregnant with him, and my brother was born, and he's good, he's fine. It was also something that massively played on my mind as well while I was pregnant, and I actually asked one of the people that was performing my second scan when I was pregnant with my eldest about could she check that the baby had all their fingers and toes. And she kind of looked at me and she said, that's not something that we do as routine. And I sort of literally waved my arm in the air and I just sort of said, could you make an exception, please? Because this is, what has happened to me. And she literally immediately was really apologetic, and she was like she sort of really backtracked. She was like, oh, yes, of course I can, which was obviously nice to know that then everything was okay with that. So, yeah, I got my first prosthetic leg when I was about 9 months old. And, yeah, I've had, I don't know, completely lost track of how many I've had over the years. Obviously, when I was younger, I used to go through them quite quickly because I was growing. Less so, obviously, in my kind of late teens and 20s. And then just before I was 30, I had my son, and I've had to have a new limb after each of my 3 boys as well, because I guess your body goes through a lot of things, posture wise, and your gait and how you hold yourself, obviously with the additional weight, and kind of muscles and tissues all kind of take a bit of a hit. So I have had to have a new limb after all 3 of those. And then more recently, which has kind of brought us to where we are today, is the fact that I've been getting quite a lot of pain in my knee. So it's my right lower limb where I wear the prosthetic leg. I've been getting a lot of pain probably for about the last 4 or 5 years in that knee. But more recently, in the last kind of 6 months to a year, I've been getting some offset pain in my left hip, which I have been reliably informed is because the alignment of my prosthetic isn't right. So basically my whole body is kind of off, and I'm putting abnormal pressure on the joints like my right knee and my left hip, which the doctor told me some time ago, if that continues to happen, there is a chance that obviously I will wear away those joints abnormally, kind of more one side than the other if the alignment's not right, and I could end up having to have further operations down the line, like hip replacements and knee replacements. So it's kind of all come to a head, to be honest. I get a lot of pain on an almost daily basis, depending on how much I've done. So yeah, I kind of kick-started this thing a couple of months ago by going to see the doctor and the physiotherapist at my limb centre, who have referred me on to a surgeon. So yeah, I'm kind of, we've kind of put the wheels in motion of this thing now. I've had my first video appointment, and then my face-to-face appointment with the surgeon is happening on the 20th of September. So just a few weeks away now, which is a bit scary, but also I'll be glad to kind of get a few more answers. So that's me, basically. in a nutshell. So hi and welcome, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of what is to come, I guess.